What's your name?
Sandwich.
I'm not with you today, so I'll give you some context. So every now and then, the plan was
Come see us.
take one day every couple of months. So the area that I serve specifically, but I would like to
We're going to start in a couple of minutes, so before we do, if you could take a second and scan the QR code. This is how we take attendance, and we want them to know that we are live and driving.
I am
And if you're first time, please also scan the QR code so that we can stay friends.
small.
I thought I was like, I would have been okay. Like,
So your place looks familiar, so come on. How you doing?
Yes.
You are the Davis here.
And we know each other.
everyone gets a warning about it. Like, should I have a warning?
Donna, but it's been a minute since I've actually been joined, so I'm excited.
Well, that's the exciting part of it.
I'm actually excited. I mean, I look excited. It's a little groggy.
It's 9 o'clock in the morning.
Well, I'm a morning person, so I don't understand this whole thing. Maybe it must be the midlife thing going on. That perimenopause thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just leaning into, Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I didn't get a chance to come by and say hi to everybody, but
Don't worry.
I'm a member. I know my face may not look familiar to some of you because a lot of faces look new to me. Hey, where's Judy? Oh, somewhere? Okay. Yeah, so I had an opportunity to come this morning. We are on spring break, so I'm excited to be here, even though I don't look excited. I'm a little groggy. So when I wake up, I'll perk up a little bit. Okay. Huh?
There's no tea back there for you.
There's no tea back there for me, no caffeine.
This caffeine.
I'm good. I had some oatmeal with a little avocado and fruit, so that should perk me up a little bit. Who's presenting this morning?
All right, we're going to go ahead and get started.
Oh,
Here we go.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
On the schedule.
I'm shutting up.
All right,
Go
we're
ahead.
going to do a little bit of housekeeping and then move into the main event if we're all ready. The mission of Wally & Co. Cups is to lower the barrier of access to education, resources, and connection for all types of new, seasoned, aspiring entrepreneurs throughout the United States. A couple of things. First of all, our key pillars are we give presentations, not pitches. We also make authentic connections. We're not just here to network. And we're radically and intentionally inclusive. And we are run for the community, by the community. And what I mean by that are these are the local businesses and business owners that bring this program to you weekly. So we're grateful to the Mix for housing us every Wednesday. We appreciate the Waffle House for donating the free coffee. And the business owners below are the ones who bring you the presenters, coach the presenters, do the marketing, do the email reminders, and all of the things that keep the ship afloat. And my God, do I have wonderful representation today. It is a labor of love. We don't get paid for any of this. We just donate our time, our talents, and our treasures. And look at my lovely models. We get ugly t-shirts for all of the work we put into it. And Al, he's got the long sleeve. Look at that. This is all we get, kids. That's it. That's our reward right there. So we don't even get hats. How'd you get a hat? You went to a conference or something, huh? Look at that. See, that's the high level right there. All right.
That's the graduate.
That is. He's the king in the room here. Our local program, if you don't know, we've actually been here for over 10 years, and we are held weekly on Wednesday mornings. We have had over 500 entrepreneur presentations, and we also offer educational topics like finance, future frame networking, and provide local resources. We have one presenter a week with about a 5 to 6 minute presentation, and we follow that with Q&A from the community. We also will do maintenance sessions where we bring in local entrepreneurs who have had an excess of income and they share their stories with us. We are always free, we are always open to the public, and we do provide you with some free coffee. So please tell a friend, bring an entrepreneur, and share our program with them. I am looking for presenters. Just remind, it is not a sales pitch, it is not an investor pitch. The goal when you come into the room is to share your journey and have people understand what you do and some of the challenges you've had in building your business. We love new companies, 0 to 5 years old, open to community engagement. You can apply here at this link, or you can come and see any of the t-shirt boys in the back of the room or out right over here. We would love to get you on the pipeline. I have openings available for April and May. We have 2 Facebook pages. One is our national Facebook page, and this one here is our little homegrown Columbia Facebook page. So if you're not a member of this, please go ahead and scan that and become a friend here. This is where we like to have all of our local engagement. If you need a question, you have a question, you comment, or have a comment, you want to share a resource, looking for a resource, we would like the engagement here. I see any phones. You good, Oliver? You just don't? Okay. Got it. There we go. Oh, sorry, Nora. You go back. There you go, my dear. Go ahead, pop in.
Thank you.
Upcoming presenters. So next week, is it open for coaches? Did we fill that slot yet? I'm going to give that to.
I thought we talked to Sharon.
Yes.
Yes, we Sharon.
Okay, I'm going to put Sharon there next week. So we're going to.
Okay, your turn to email her and let her know. She replied to your email.
She skipped over on when she's concerned. So I'm just going to help her. She's good to go.
Yeah.
Help you. All right, and then the 22nd, we're going to have Mr. Austin Doolittle come in and talk about poly energy. And looky-loo, I got 2 weeks open. Who wants to take them? Please let us know. Who? We'll discuss this. All right, moving on. Take a second, look at your phones, everybody. Please make sure they're on silent or just shut them off if you can for 60 minutes, just out of courtesy for our presenter as well as our community. So thank you for that. And without further ado, I would like to present to you Mr. Wally Steinhauser, who is with Wingard's Market, and he's going to talk to us today about the journey and future plans for the market. So please help me welcome Mr. Wally Steinhauser.
Thank you. First, I have to point out I'm not the Wingard in this business, okay? That's real important since my wife, Dolores, is with us today. This was her family's business. So I'll tell you a little bit about us first, and then the business. And my son, the 3rd generation of Wingard's Market, is also with us. We were both corporate gypsies. We started our careers in Jacksonville, Florida with computers and economics and left and went to Atlanta where we did more of that. Left there, went to Colorado, did more of it out there. Left and went to New Jersey and did the most of it there. So I started out as an entry-level manager at AT&T and wound up as an executive when I retired in 2004. So I'd spent 23 years there. Dolores had started her career at Barnett Banks in Florida as an economist, and when we went to Atlanta, she became a research economist at the Atlanta Fed. And then as we moved to New Jersey, she started teaching economics at Monmouth University and then a community college, and retired from there. And we were looking for something to do because when I was 50, I'd left AT&T and gone to a small company called Global Crossing. And that was like daily jujitsu compared to the environment I grew up in at AT&T. So after just over a year, I got an offer I couldn't refuse. And they wrote me a check and I left. So I was 50 years old. We were going, what are we going to do now? So we always knew we wanted to retire back in the South because nobody from the South wants to retire to New Jersey, I can promise you. So we knew we wanted to get back South so our kids could get a start on life at a reasonable cost because nothing was affordable. So we moved down here and called her parents and said, he was 82 and her mother was 76. We said, what are you guys going to do with the business? Because they were getting up in age, and they said, oh, we're going to close it down. Or we were going to give it to two of the people that work for it. And we said, well, don't do that. We'll buy it from you. So my father-in-law, who had this business started as a hobby, we had to pry his fingers off the business. My mother-in-law couldn't wait to get out of the business. So within a month or two, we packed up New Jersey and sold our house and moved down here and bought the business. And when my wife and I were dating, she worked for her dad potting up azaleas because that's what he liked to do. And that's how this business started, was growing azaleas. So we bought the business. She had dirt in her fingers. I didn't know anything about it, but I'd run billion-dollar businesses at AT&T, and I figured it couldn't be that hard. And so we moved down here and bought it. First thing we had to do was an inventory. He had, 5 acres of plants. Didn't know how many he had. Didn't have a point of sale system. Didn't have a good accounting system. He just knew what he took in and what went out. And it was a pretty simple business. So we took an inventory. He decided what the price was. We bought it. And he worked in it for about a month. until we took over and he wasn't the boss anymore. So it was a pretty interesting transition. It was a lot different business in 2006 than it is today. We're in Lexington. For those of you from Lexington, you probably know where it is or you've been by it. It's close to the Lake Murray Dam at the corner of Highway 6 and Pilgrim Church Road. In 2006, it was azaleas. 150,000 azaleas. Nobody knew how many. We had to count them. We had to count them twice. When that was the basis of the purchase price. There was no gift shop, there was no nothing, it was plans. So first thing we did was we put in a point of sale system. So we went to QuickBooks and we had a QuickBooks accounting system, we put in a QuickBooks point of sale system. It was out of the box, it worked, it did everything we needed it to do. So off we go. And then we said, well, what's this business all about? Because at one time, Tom said the only place you could buy a plant in Lexington was at Wingard's Market. It was called Wingard's Nursery then. Started in 1968. So we said, well, what do we do with this and who are the customers? So I had a marketing background, my wife had an analytic background, and we said, well, the customers seem to be 35 to 70-year-old women. And so we need to sell things that they want to buy. Real simple. And they make decisions on plants. So then we expanded into a gift shop. They make decisions about gifts for themselves and others. And then we expanded into a produce market, so we started selling fresh produce. And they buy all the food in the house. Men generally don't, although I do like a grocery shop. So then we were missing one piece, and that was a greenhouse. So we built a big greenhouse, and then we needed more property because we'd have these big sales and not enough parking. They were parked everywhere. So we bought more property, and now we're basically 5 businesses. We're a gift shop, we're a fresh produce market, we have a wild birds business. It's basically a backyard, we call it a backyard nature center. Anything to do with nature and native stuff, my son Zach runs. He's a degreed professional from the University of Florida in biodiversity and so forth and so on. And then we have trees and shrubs, annuals and perennials, and house plants. So I guess that's really 6 businesses. And the labor force is fungible. So we move people around as the need arises, and every one of those businesses has a different busy season. Plants are for spring, produce is for spring, summer. The gift shop is for winter, for Christmas. So by doing it that way, we de-seasonalize the business, because before it was just plants, and all this revenue would pour in, March through June, and then the rest of the time, you basically tried to hold on to all that money to make your payroll. We have probably about 35 equivalent full-time people that work there. We have a lot of part-timers. We try to focus on being nice, right? Because you can teach somebody plants. I mean, after all, I learned them. But you can't teach them to be nice. So we try to hire nice people that are good with people. And honestly, our best source of people are second career people, kind of like Dolores and I were. Although we need younger people because our backs are really bad and those pots are really heavy. So we have a mix of both. But in any event, we really try to hire nice people. And Dolores does all the hiring, and I kind of stay out of the way. I do all the back office stuff. She runs the office. Our role, since we bought it, when we bought it, there were 5 people that we inherited there. So we were doing a little bit of everything. And as it grew, we kept our fingers in everything. But we got to a point where we just couldn't anymore because it got so big. So revenue-wise, we're about $3.5 million a year in revenue. When we bought the business, it was just right around $500,000. So it's grown 7 times in 20 years. And the margins have grown too, and the margins have allowed us to expand, which we really needed to do to compete with. At the time, the real garden center we were competing with was Woodley's. We were different than them because we were inspired by some really cool garden centers in New Jersey. One in particular was named Sickles Market, and it was in Little Silver. And we got to know them, and every time Dolores' parents would come up to see us, we'd go to Sickles so they could see what Sickles was doing. And Sickles was this high-end garden center. They got their property from the Queen of England in the 1600s. And they started farming it, then they put a market on it, then they put a gift shop on it, and they just grew. And then they put, it's a lot more a fresh produce market. I mean, it was a grocery store, basically. Everybody in New Jersey likes to eat meatballs, okay? So they would start with that, then they would, you could buy a steak, you could buy whatever. But it was a real high-end experience, and you loved going there. So that was the model that we had when we started Wingard's, because we wanted to do something besides sell plants. We knew we couldn't, it was more of a evolution rather than a revolution, because if we'd come in and started it right away, it probably would not have been successful. So we like to talk about how we incrementalize our way there. And by the way, I didn't say this, but I encourage you, if you have questions, ask them, okay? if I don't know the answer and Dolores or Zach don't know it, we'll make it up. But ask the question, okay?
Spoken like a true salesman.
What do you said, you mentioned earlier, you know, your customer, 35, what did you say, 35 to 70 year, I mean, this is currently or in the past?
Good question.
Are you seeing that change?
We're not. It's funny. I don't know what it is, okay? But we test this through Facebook. We have 15,000 Facebook followers, and that was all organic, by the way. We have a newsletter that goes out to 15,000, not the same people necessarily. And we do surveys, you know, and one of the surveys is, you know, check a box from an age. You know, we try to follow the United States Census demographics. And it really doesn't change. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's because you have no money when you're young, and then all of a sudden you have money, and then you spend it on this kind of stuff. But it's been very consistent. And it's 35 to 70-year-old women skewed to probably 45 to 70. But we cover all the bases. We'll have some younger than that, but generally, Dolores.
What we find is it's kind of a cycle that you go through in terms of plant desiring, hobby, or affordability, and it usually starts with houseplants. And before we had a greenhouse, we really couldn't sell houseplants. So when we brought in the greenhouse, we could bring in houseplants, indoor plants, and we attracted a younger audience there because everybody starts with houseplants. And then they get a house, and then a couple of years later, they start playing around with, after they put up the blinds and painted and done the stuff inside, then they start working on outside. So it's really an age thing that is just kind of the normal way of life, I think. But the houseplants have really helped us tap a somewhat younger audience.
In the back? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I really apologize. I saw Wingards. I didn't make the connection until you started talking about plants. I pass by your shop almost every day.
Probably never been in, have you?
Crap.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was you. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
I got a bunch of questions. I'm trying to talk.
Probably one of the funniest things we did was we put on the sign, big sign out by the road, so you've never been in, why don't you stop? And people would stop in, you know, it's like, well, I've never been here before.
Well, that's a stupid thing.
Kind of an obvious thing, but
My wife and I had stopped in. You know, I just didn't make the connection. This is you. Wow, this is great. But
Well, just
I got so many questions.
I am one of the customers. We go to Leesville. We was doing that for 40 years to visit my mother-in-law, so we stopped in and bought several plants from you guys. We really love you. And also the market. We've been in the visit market and everything, but I think the location is perfect. Where you're at, and I just think the whole story is awesome. Continue to do great things. Because I've been for the springtime getting some flowers for my garden.
thank you.
If I could ask you just a couple of questions. How do you, okay, now you're in a business where there is a very limited shelf life on the products. Okay? How do you count that shelf life for restock? What percentage of, I used to estimate construction jobs where you count for a certain amount of waste. Do you do something similar? When you buy plants, you think maybe 10% are going to go to waste or something like that? And also, how do you adjust during a recession when people just can't afford to buy as much?
Well, in terms of buying plants, we don't really overbuy thinking that some of it's going to waste. We know some of it's going to waste. We just try to buy enough to have enough for it to meet the demand for that week or whatever. But it's very seasonal. Like right now, we're getting in 5, 6, 7, 8 trucks a week and offloading them and selling the stuff and then turning around and bringing them in again the next week. It's just in time inventory in the plant business, and especially in the spring. And we don't want to have to take care of them. So we have very little waste during times that are peak times. But like over the summer, you have to keep some inventory there. You can't like just look naked. And but that's the challenge. And you do end up having a much bigger write-off. And so it's one thing we try to balance having enough and having it look good with ending up having to throw some of it away. So.
Can you send, are there signals that tell you a recession's coming, so you start scaling back on your purchasing?
We've been expecting one since 2008. For the life, and my wife's an economist, okay? And I asked her, she said, I don't know. So, I don't know. I mean,
Well, we got hit hard in 2009.
Yeah.
During that recession, our revenue went down 15%. Other than that, until the last couple of years, our revenue grew 15% a year, just from the growth in Lexington and the new offerings that we made. We found that the more you have to sell, the more they'll buy. This year we brought in a lot more flowers, a lot more color earlier. What are we selling? A lot more color earlier. And we expanded our produce market from a little tiny roadside kind of thing to a little bit bigger, to a little bit bigger. And every time we expand it, the revenue soars. So we're learning. We did not come from a retail background. And so we've had to really learn about inventory turn and things that, you studied in college or I taught in my economics classes, but you never had that experience with. Marginal revenue versus marginal cost. How much is it going to cost us to do this extra thing versus how much revenue will it bring in? And those are real life decisions that you have to make. Yes.
Quick question. It's kind of like off what he just asked. Have y'all ever did any kind of surveys off y'all customers to ask them like what make y'all buy?
We do surveys.
we generally Facebook and their newsletter, we do constant contact, and that's pretty flexible and let you design a survey, but they track pretty well to each other. You'll get, it's the service, right? Because you come in, like I said, our people are really nice. You go to the box stores, they don't know a plant from a schmant, and they don't, the guy that's selling you paint's trying to talk to you about a plant. It just doesn't work. And I mean, they're big, and there are people that are going to go to the box stores, and I'm under no delusion we're going to close them down, But what people will tell us is you pay a little more for our stuff. Our premium's probably about 10%, maybe, and we can make a decent buck at that. But there's no service when you go to a box store. And if you go to a box store, by the way, there's two kinds, right? There's Home Depot that's designed for men. Everybody knows that, right? That's why it's orange, that's why the ceilings, that's why it's very industrial looking. And then when you go to Lowe's, it's designed for women. Softer light, softer colors, and they will tell you that's their strategy. Lowe's is a better place to buy plants than Home Depot is. And they're both orders of magnitude better than Walmart. I mean, and it's a whole different model. Those guys are buying from growers that have hundreds of acres of greenhouses. And my wife and I would disagree on this. But if they don't sell a plant, they just don't get paid for it. So in other words, all the stuff that dies, the grower bears the risk for, not the box store. It's not that case with us. We bear the risk if it doesn't work. So does that answer your question?
And one thing I want to tell you about the surveys is a challenge is we survey our customers. Our customers like us. So they're going to tell us good things. So we haven't figured out a way really to survey the general population, or we haven't wanted to pay enough to survey the general population, so we get all those people that don't buy from us and find out why they don't, So we have to look at that. The answers are kind of skewed. But one of the biggest ahas we had a long time ago was we thought Woodley's was our competition because they were very similar to us. And they were right across the dam, and they had opened a new store right about the same time we we came in. And so we did a survey, and we said, where else do you shop? The number one answer was Lowe's. And we said, and then like 20% of them said, Woodley's. So we said, oh my, our competition is not Woodley's, our competition is the box store. So we started thinking totally differently about how we competed with them. We didn't just dismiss them. We said, we got to think about how to compete with them, and we try to do it through service. And a lot of times customers will come and say, the guy at Home Depot sent me here.
You're right, no, you're right, because I done went to the store and they just hire young people and they don't really know what they selling.
Yeah.
So like you said, that's what's really gonna get y'all there.
So they'll scan a barcode and read you the description
That's
off the
it.
website.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is.
I
But
mean,
I was thinking that this week, with the Masters going on, is one of the major advertisers you got for your core line, which is azaleas.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I mean, I don't know this to be true, but when we bought the nursery, we were always told there are Wingard azaleas on the Augusta National Golf Course. I don't know if that's true or not, but I've had people call from nurseries over there looking for azaleas, and I don't know what they're going to do with them, but that is an old plant nursery that Augusta National is built on.
Question right in front here.
Sure.
And to hear you guys speak of kind of your waste where you're responsible for those funds, have you guys thought about the idea of composting that and let that be a revenue stream of all your plants and materials in a section and sell the compost as another revenue stream?
We've thought about it, but we don't have enough real estate to do it. And we used to do that. We used to sell, we owned the property across the street at one point too. Now it's going to be a gas station. But we would do that and sell it in bulk. But when you started looking at it versus the economics of that versus selling it already composted and bagged, it just, in the labor, it was like, let's just sell the bag stuff.
Okay.
But we send people to, there's a place down the street that sells them in bulk.
Do you grow anything from seed?
Marijuana. I'm just kidding. No, we don't. No, we don't. I'm just kidding.
Hey, we'll be going to Wingard after this.
Yeah, we're looking for a new revenue stream. No, we used to, but we don't. We used to grow cuttings too. My father-in-law would take cuttings. I mean, I always tell people he did the hard work. I mean, he had $150 after he retired with a pension from South Carolina Electric and Gas, but he would not put any money into the business that the business couldn't raise itself. So he started with $150 and a bunch of coffee cans and pot and azaleas in 1966 or so. And back then, the industry wasn't real structured, so there weren't a lot of plastic pot suppliers or label suppliers. So there were azaleas when we bought the nursery that had probably been there for 20 or 30 years that had old beer cans cut, 10 snips, cut them, flipped them over, and he inscribed what the variety was, and he put it on the pot. That's how you knew. So we've got a few of those that we framed because the nursery was very nascent at that point, or the industry was very nascent at that point. But it's changed a lot since then. And it's, he grew a lot of azaleas. It was a lot cheaper to buy them in because he had acres of azaleas, and it took 2 people full time to prune them, because you got to prune them into shape, to get the pine straw out of them and fertilize them. So once they finished, they'd circle around and start again. And so we had 2 people doing that, and we weren't selling them all. So we said, we got to get rid of these azaleas, which broke his heart, by the way. And over time we did. We'd fire sale them out of there. We'd give them away. I mean, we just needed to get the labor costs of azaleas down because, like everything else, flowers run through cycles, right? Or shrubs run through cycles. We used to sell Indian hawthorn. That's a plant that if you go into a shopping center, that's what they landscape them with. And in the winter, the leaves all fall off of them because they get a disease called black spot fungus. And we can't have that in the nursery because it spreads to other plants. So we don't sell those anymore. We sell a pittosporum instead. But every plant goes through its cycles.
Just go back to the growing. The business that we bought did a lot of growing. But we discovered pretty quickly that the business was not efficient enough at that. and there were other growers that could grow a lot better plant than what we were growing. We were good at the azaleas, but nothing else really. And so we transitioned out of growing and into strictly retail. We really don't. The only thing we grow is we buy in roses every year and pot them up. Then we buy them bare roots in soil, and we pot them, and then we sell them.
And daylilies.
Well, we
to a lesser degree.
and we're not even going to do that going forward. So, but you have to figure out what you're good at, and maybe the previous owner was good at growing. That's how my dad wanted to do. That's what he liked, and he was good at it. But we weren't, and we learned. And there were many more suppliers that we could buy from that weren't available when he started.
I have to ask the extremes, what is the toughest plant to maintain inventory? Basically, they're hard to keep alive, and what's the hardiest?
I'd say the toughest one's probably a ornamental cherry tree. A Yoshino or a Kwanzaa or an Okomi. Why is that? Because when they're young, there's an insect called a wood borer. And wood borers love soft tissue trees. And the trees I'm talking about are the ones you see in Washington around the tidal basin cherry blossom festival. We sell them and they're pretty when they mature. But until they mature, they're really easy for this wood borer to penetrate. And all it takes is one, and it kills the tree. So when we get them, we have to treat them right away, or that $75 investment on that tree that you just made a week later is going to be dead because they die overnight when they. So that's the toughest one to maintain. I don't know, probably the easiest one's a shrub called the Wheeler's dwarf pittosporum. I mean,
That is.
you guys have other opinions?
Dad had a question.
Thank you. So you hit on customer service being a key component of your growth, right? And identifying that early. What's some of the things that you've identified in your marketing that has allowed that to take root, right? Because your marketing attracts in the right people that you've identified. So what are some of the things that you've done differently on that side to complement the customer service aspect?
I think probably the smartest decision we made with marketing was to hire a PR agency. And MPA Associates, Ashley Hunter. I was on the board of the South Carolina Green Association and got to meet her. In fact, I was the one that recommended they hire her. It's hard to imagine. I'll give you an example. We used to do these Friday night, once a year fundraisers for Mission Lexington. And there'd be 1,500 people in the nursery. We'd have a band, drinks, and food, and it was just a great time. And all the money went to Mission Lexington. I couldn't get arrested sending a press release out about that. We hired Ashley, and she sends it out, and the whole trick is they know everybody, okay? So she'll send it to the on-air personalities that she knows and all the TV stations, and all of a sudden we're getting on TV. Boom, 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 boom. And the whole time we were watching Woodley's going, why the hell can't we do that, We weren't smart enough at that point and didn't have the funds at that point to hire a PR agency. But Ashley's done a tremendous amount of things for us. So she creates the awareness, gets us on camera, and we're able to talk in such a way that kind of people see the authenticness of it.
So two things I heard, my takeaway from what you're saying is you had a relationship with someone that understood your business, right? You had funding eventually enough to implement the plan that this person understood.
Right.
And then lastly, you were authentic in the way that you presented yourself.
Yeah. I mean, we are. We're not, there's no facade about us. I mean, you get what you get. You get wisecracks like me when customers come in. I tell them I'm the eye candy. Some of them believe it, My wife shakes her head.
I'm a married man, so I understand my wife does the same thing.
Ask them for their telephone numbers and stuff like that. It's all women, right?
I would add to that. social media, we got into it early on, fairly early on. I don't remember what year, but we started
2010.
doing things on Facebook, and we were like, "Wow, this is amazing! It's free!" And we got followers, and it worked really, really well for us. But we had other people doing it that didn't work in the business. And as long as we had other people doing our social media, it was just a struggle to get the right information out there, to get the graphics done, to explain to them what we needed. And so finally we said, social media, graphics, Andrea, had worked for us for quite some time and is now our general manager. We said, you need to learn how to do graphics. And so she learned how to do Canva, and she does all our graphics now, posts all our social media, comes up with all our reels, and it's having that in-house has been a big difference in our social media presence.
I mean, she put out a post about, she runs out and films these with her cell phone. Here's how you prune a crepe myrtle. She put it up. It's had 250,000 views. So I mean, it went viral, and that's like we've done a few that have gone viral, but we were like, damn, really? But having them on prem, having somebody that works in the business do it is a big deal.
I'm gonna tell you why that hit. Because a lot of people don't know how to trim them trees. It's a lot of people don't know how to trim those trees.
Oh, I know. We know how. We always tell people.
Right.
You know, and we don't always get it right, by the way. I mean, you know, this survey we talked about, we'll get some feedback that's hurtful to hear sometimes. I don't care what you do, you know. I've been like jumped on by customers. My wife's been jumped on by customers. You know, they have opinions, and you want to hear them, and then you got to try to go, how many times am I hearing that? Price is one that people always say. And you know what? Our reaction to that is, you'll never be cheap enough for some people. So, and we're not going to give it away, and we're not doing it as a community chest, you know. So,
Can I draw a distinction real quick? You responded with PR, not advertising. And folks need to understand there are two different things.
good point. We do both. Our business is really visual, and we can create the image through advertising. And the radius of our business is about 8 to 10 miles. So, you know, sometimes I always believe if I gave everything away, I'm not going to get people to drive across the Gervais Street Bridge. There's this thing with Lexington and Columbia. I don't quite understand it, but it's there. And there's good nurseries on this side of town. So, but we learned early on, we're going to try to get the most money for our advertising we can. So we were on TV in 2010, 11, and 12 on WIS. Well, at that time, spots were $500 if you wanted to be on the news. So we did that principally to keep to create a presence for the business and keep what we thought was our competitor, Woodley's, on the other side of the dam. And we did. But at that point, it was like you couldn't manage the efficacy, right? So Wanamaker, everybody know who Wanamaker is? Very famous quote. Half of all advertising money is wasted. The trick's figuring out which half. And that's really the challenge. So we've gone to advertising in things like Lexington Life. We've done Columbia Metropolitan. And then there's 8,000 little magazines that call us. You know, they have like a circulation of 300. And it just, you know, God bless them, but it just doesn't work for us.
And I wasn't criticizing it as much.
Yeah, no.
I think it's a smart move to go with PR, especially in this market. But what folks have to understand is whoever's doing your PR needs to be like the young lady you're talking about. They have to be connected. You know, everybody claims they can do this, but it's really the connections that drive PR.
That's exactly what it is, because like I said, when we would have these great big fundraisers, I couldn't get arrested trying to issue a press release. We go, what the hell? And then when we hired Ashley, it made perfect sense to your point. She's connected to all these people, newspapers, radio, print, television. So she just says something and they all respond to her. And what we didn't understand was, particularly television's always looking for local content. They're always looking for content. So if you've got something that, is reasonable, they'll just take it in a second. You have a question?
Like I've been riding by 40 years, probably when your father-in-law had the business. And what I like about it is the presence on the outside with the waterfall. I think that's very catchy. And I'm glad you told me what's going to be on that corner, because we were trying to figure out what it was going to be all the years. Because it was like an old house, I think, on their house that wasn't.
On that corner?
Yes.
That was where my wife grew up.
Okay, yeah, I figured that's what the connection was.
I always tell people it's going to be a gentleman's club.
We have time for a couple more questions. So, Tom, and then you have Ron.
Well, I didn't expect Jack to be here today, because I'm going to ask Jack this question. What's it like looking up, being third generation at work in this business, and what's your view of that? Now, I can ask your parents to leave if you want me to.
Oh, it's terrifying.
Well, by the way, you need to also know he spun off a business out of this too. Tell them about your business.
Sure. So to answer Tom's question, it's definitely a big obstacle, just seeing kind of what my folks have built. Based off of what my grandparents have built, so it's kind of pressure from the community, pressure from family, pressure from colleagues, that the torch passes to myself and to my colleague Andrea, who's our general manager, and we're trying to understand where we fit in all this and where we want to take it. And we're still trying to understand the course we need to take, and I think it all kind of boils down to what is the shit, like kind of where is society these days, and everybody seems to be on their phone more often than not. So but we always hear from folks that it's like every time they come, they love to be able to just tune out and see all the flowers and just kind of have that moment of zen. So just being able to give people an experience where they can just enjoy themselves and get that natural dopamine hit. From that perspective. So we're still trying to chart a course and understand next moves forward. And then to my father's point, I did manage to spin a business out of Wingard's, where we're always looking to contribute new business ideas. And I want to say in 2016, right after I got out of college, we were out on Lake Murray, and if those that are unfamiliar, in the summer times you get the purple martin display out on Baum Island, where you get a couple 100,000 birds all gather up at this island for a couple months. And my mother mentions how she wished there were actual businesses giving tours to take folks out to come and see the birds. And so that was a seed that got planted in my brain, and I just hung on to it. And over the course of a year, we just started talking to local captains, and we were able to start running charters out with we partnered with another business and chartered folks out there. And then over time, I got my captain's license, began to take folks myself to go see the birds. And COVID brought about everybody wanting to get outside. And I managed to find all these different wildlife phenomena happening statewide. And the great thing about where we live in Columbia is we're 2 hours to anywhere. So easy day trip distance to go see fun, unique things outside. And it's managed to grow into a decent little business. I think I do 1% of the $3.5 million they do in sales, but all entrepreneurs get there someday. But yeah, so.
Thanks, guys.
I have a similar question to what Tom just asked. I was thinking about the generational shift. Third generation, I was going to ask you directly. You have a background in biodiversity. So I was going to ask if maybe you consider maybe raising plants that could supply maybe the supplements, everybody's kind of health conscious. So maybe tap into that market and maybe trying to market some of those plants to some of those larger companies that would use those plants. With your background, I know you're thinking about more wildlife, but what about that industry?
So I specialize in like all the backyard nature stuff. So all the wild animals you can try to attract to your yard. But we have worked. One of my colleagues, Melissa, who runs our produce market, she's kind of worked on tapping into that kind of health conscious foods market where we're working with local farmers that don't have any like GMO or hyper-steroided produce, whether it's chicken, beef, whatever, and other herbs and vegetable plants and stuff like that. And we also work with local farmers for their produce and bring them in as well. And so we're working on kind of getting more into that healthy living area. But like everything just kind of takes time to really hit its stride.
Deb, you want to do the final question? I would love to. What can 1 million cups do for you?
We were just talking to this young lady right here. We're rebuilding our website, and we're trying to figure out what to do with AI. And the only thing I could come up with was if you click on a QR code, we could talk to you, because our plants are all. You walk into the nursery, there's signs. Some have QR codes, some don't yet. But on our website, if you could click on an image and have it talk to you, that, and then we talked about chat briefly. The thing about chat, it's good and bad. We're small, and if I had to sit in front of a computer all day waiting for somebody to ask me a question, I don't know that it's affordable that way. So we've got to make it smarter somehow, that it takes people out of it and sends it to within the website somewhere. So I don't know, but I'm smart enough to know what I don't know, and I know at some point that's gonna really take over.
Okay, thank you everybody for coming this week. This room at 10:30 coming in to set up for an event, but we are welcome to move our networking downstairs into the other conference room. But at 10:30 we're going to vacate this room, just FYI. Thank you everybody, we'll see you next week. Thank you. I never get to Lexington, because I'm always in the Northeast, but now we have a good reason. I and believe me, this has been up for a long time. I work on second, but I
Vision of
Last year, I saw that about
To have a special little dish that says beef for that. But you know, honey, Dr. Jazz, she's talking about, she does, but she goes to the insurance. All I did was put him on this That was the best of the competition, and that was a little bit more. Jackie was so clear on the end of that. Yeah, there's start setting up for they're doing some I've seen a lot of